Okay, well, good afternoon, everybody. We're going to begin this hearing for the legislative plan, the state legislative map. Just briefly, on Monday, the commission released a draft map of the state legislative districts, after having had 12 public hearings and a work session focused on the legislative map. The approach we've taken for the state legislative map is to draft a concept map that keeps the overwhelming majority of Marylanders in their existing districts while adjusting for population shifts that have occurred throughout the state. Portions of our current legislative districts have remained together for decades and reflect commitment to complying with the Voting Rights Act, protecting existing communities of interest, and utilizing existing natural and political boundaries to the extent practicable. I'd like to note that unlike congressional district maps, our state legislative districts are much smaller because there are 47 Senate districts from which 1 senator and 3 delegates are to be elected. Further, the Maryland Constitution expressly authorizes districts to be subdivided for the purpose of electing delegates. The draft concept state legislative map before us, like previous state legislative maps, has both at-large and subdivided delegate districts, either single-member or 2-member delegate districts. The single and 2-member delegate districts help to ensure compliance with the Voting Rights Act and ensure that areas with different communities or densities in population have an opportunity to elect members of their choice. They also allow the commission to show due regard for political boundaries when a Senate district covers multiple counties or municipalities. Before I turn this over to Ms. Michelle Davis to walk through the map, one other thing I'll mention is that under the law, our state districts can deviate from exact population number to plus or minus 5% or a maximum of 10% across the largest and smallest district. This map before us today does not deviate more than 4% in either direction, or a maximum of 8%. And I will have to say and comment that in my previous 4 rounds of redistricting, this is the smallest maximum deviation that we've ever achieved. We did this to ensure that there's as much equality between district populations while balancing the need to work with Maryland's unique geography and population distribution. So we look forward to your comments. We welcome anyone to submit written testimony, which we have received a couple of those, and that can be via email at testimony_LRAC@mlis.state.md.us. And so, Michelle, since I've said all of that, I'm going to hand it over to you to provide us an overview of this map.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm going to share my screen. Give me a second here. It never works on the first try. Jody, it's still disabled. I'm not sure how you enable me. Once I can share my screen, I'm going to start with briefly with the Senate map, the Senate districts, just to give a little context, and then I'll save my more detailed comments by looking at the Senate and the House districts nested in the Senate districts. Okay, let's see here. I should be able to share. Okay. Okay, hopefully everyone can see the screen, the Senate districts on the screen here. Good. So these are the Senate districts, that meaning they are not subdivided in this map. It's just a view of what the map would look like with just the Senate districts overlaid. And what I'm going to show you now is the same map, but with the Senate district subdivided. And I think what I'll do is I'm going to keep this description brief because I know that there are people waiting to comment on the map and so on. So I'll start in Western Maryland and just give a few notes about some of the changes and how population growth has affected the movement of the district, so to speak. And I'll be talking about it mostly in reference to the existing districts. So in Senate District 1 here in Western Maryland, obviously this district had to move further west, and it has pushed out further west. One of the things that have changed is in District 1B, which now includes all of Cumberland. I think you can see that here. It may be a little difficult to see, but that's the Cumberland area. And then the rest of the district, the Senate district, pushes out into Washington County. And previously it stopped a little bit short of Hagerstown, but now it abuts Hagerstown, which is now all in District 2B. And 2A, which is the green part here, rather expansive district here, has moved further west into Carroll County, or up, I should say, up to the Carroll County line.
You mean east?
Oh, I'm sorry, did I say west? I was thinking of Western Maryland. Yes, I'm sorry, east, obviously. We don't want to go into another state. We're going east. So it is pushing east into northern Frederick County, which takes in Emmitsburg and so on. And I believe the existing district stopped just short at the Frederick County line, I believe.
It is the Frederick County line.
Well, yeah, but I'm saying it's going into Frederick, and I think
Right.
before it stopped, yes.
Right, it was the Frederick line.
Yeah. And so here, down here, I'll back out a little bit, is District 3. And previously we had in the Frederick area, meaning the city of Frederick, we had a 3A and a 3B. I keep saying had, technically it's still current. And now in this map, we have District 3, which takes in all of Frederick, the city of Frederick, I should say, as well as what I like to call the metro area, I guess, around Frederick, which is a lot of the southern area here. So it takes in the city, all of the city, and the surrounding areas in the city.
Are there any concerns, Michelle, as to the compactness of 4? I mean, I understand what you're doing with 3 of keeping Frederick City combined, which I think it has been in the prior maps. I think you said it's 2-member district for the city. But when you do that for District 3, are there any concerns about, I don't know what you would call it, the donut effect of District 4 and having it sort of be less than compact? Does that create any kind of concern under our analysis?
Well, I will say this, I'm no expert on legal compactness, but I will say in general, when we're talking about just in general sort of redistricting principles generally, this would be considered very compact.
Sure, 3 definitely is. There's no question about that for
and 4 as well, and 4 as well. Yeah.
Okay.
I would agree. I don't think 4 is a compactness issue at all. It's a couple measures I think would come up pretty well in terms of area.
Okay.
Okay, I'm going to go a little bit into Carroll and Baltimore County. I'm going to get in a little bit closer to Carroll County just so you can see, since now most of Carroll County, it was District 5, but as you can see in this map, we've had to make changes due to population shifts. So now there's two districts, or I should say 1 district and a sub-district in Carroll County. And if you notice, Westminster, I believe, is completely in District 5 here. This is Westminster here. And the 42C part of Carroll County consists of the areas around Hampstead, which is on the Baltimore County, Carroll County line. And to move out a little bit, you can see that 42C connects, of course, to two other sub-districts. So this is the whole Senate district here. So it goes over and takes in most of northern Baltimore County, and that's District 42A. And then the rest of the Senate district goes down into the Cockeysville area, which is this bright yellow area. And I wanted to talk a little bit about the Baltimore area, which includes, Baltimore City and Baltimore County. There are some key differences here, and that is because of the population issues in that area and how the population has moved away from the sort of the center of the city and out into the Baltimore County areas going west and north and so on. So we have a new sub-district that is created in District 43 here. I want to get a little bit closer in there. So we have a 43A and a 43B now. The 43A portion, of course, is in Baltimore City, and that's one of the primary reasons for having sub-districts in Maryland, is to have a Senate district that might span into two different counties. And that is a way to sort of help with representation issues with the political subdivisions. So a lot of times when you see the districts being broken down into two sub-districts, that's the reason why. So here we have 43A and 43B. And 43B, I guess, is what you would call the at least the lower Towson area, and 43A here is in Baltimore City. Also, let me just back up here. So I think in total in Baltimore City now, we have 4.25 districts in Baltimore City, so down from the 5. And also notable is Senate District 44 is now located wholly in Baltimore County, and that is a sub-district as well. 44A is down here in a dark green, and 44B is this yellow part. And just in general, I think this 44A part, if I'm not mistaken, is sort of the Catonsville area, Yale Heights, that sort of area. And then, of course, 44B goes along the western border of the city, but it's all located in Baltimore County. Before I go the other direction, I just wanted to show the other new sub-district, which is District 7. And I have to say I'm less familiar with this area, but we have a 7A and a 7B. 7Bs in Harford County and 7As in Baltimore County. So again, that's the reason for creating the new sub-district there. And I want to go to Howard Montgomery area. And there have been some changes in this area, but I don't think they're very dramatic. At least that's my opinion. Montgomery County currently, I believe, has 8 Senate districts. And in this configuration, one of the main differences here is that District 14, I guess, is taken up a little bit from 9A moving into this northern Montgomery County area. And again, a lot of this happens because of population shifts. And a lot of the existing or remaining Montgomery County districts are pretty much the same, not much movement in those. And then going down into Prince George's and taking a look at Anne Arundel here. Let me look at my notes here. I don't want to miss anything. District 21, I noted here, goes a little further south into Anne Arundel County to the Crofton area. So District 21 is this bright green. So it straddles the northern part of Prince George's County and goes into Anne Arundel County, as you can see here. And I think before it didn't go as far south, but now it goes down into Crofton.
Michelle, can you indicate for us that district you're talking about, that green district that's Prince George's County and then goes into Anne Arundel? What is that in terms of the variation, the population variance? Is it over or under? If you know.
I know, but I can't see it. And wait a minute,
Okay.
Let me see here. I might have it randomly on my desk here. That's District 21. Let's
I think it's
see.
about 2.5%.
Okay.
Yeah, 2.49% is the deviation.
Right. I mean, it's just such a sort of meandering district to me, from College Park up and around all the way to Crofton. I was just wondering if it wouldn't be feasible at some point to eliminate, because it's crossing that county, going further into that county line. It looks like it's crossing Route 3 there, which remember it never did. That's why I was asking, is it possible to make that a little bit more compact by, if it's maybe eliminating one or two of those precincts or blocks or whatever they are. But that's a question for just my edification.
Great, absolutely.
Thank
If I
you.
could just ask one question there, Michelle.
Yeah.
Following up on that one, first, I want to compliment you on Baltimore City. That looks very compact. I wish the rest of the state would look as good as Baltimore City did. Anne Arundel County kind of goes many different directions. With 21 coming in over the deviation and coming into the county more, was it considered, I believe, what was District 30's deviation? Part of Anne Arundel
When you
County.
say, what was it?
what is
are you
it?
talking
What
in
is
this
it?
map or, okay, in this map, I have that in front of me. Let's see here. District 30, the Senate district is negative 3.69%.
So that's one of the lowest or underpopulated in the state. So I don't know if this is a question for the chairman. Why would Prince George's come more into the county and have over deviation when within our county we had one of the lowest underpopulated districts? Why not give population to that one instead of bringing another county further into our county? You're muted. You're muted there, Carl.
You're muted, Carl.
I assume you're talking about, I thought I heard you say District 30, but I think you mean District 33, right?
No, I don't.
Well, 30 doesn't abut 21.
No, but when you take the concept of the county, and District 30 is one of the most underpopulated in the state, you could easily have given them more precincts and not bring another county further into our county, dividing it more between counties. Just curious why there's a differential, almost 10,000 people just within Anne Arundel County districts.
I don't know that I can give you that answer at this time. I'd have to look more closely into it, but I think the growth in the northern end of the county had a lot to do how the districts ended up getting drawn in that particular region.
So can you get back to me with that, how that was determined?
We can try to do that. Sure. We'll see what we can do.
Thank you.
Okay, I'm going to move into Southern Maryland here and back out a little bit. So this is a look at the Charles County, St. Mary's, Calvert area. Again, when you're drawing maps, there's not too much that you can do when you are starting sort of from the edges, from the bottom. But I will say that in Charles County, which is mostly District 28, because of the growth in parts of that county, that's the reason why the boundary line would actually move south, because you actually have to, for lack of a better term, get rid of people, and that's because you have to work within the deviation. So the boundary line moved slightly south because of that, which of course affects 27. And so that's sort of the main difference, I believe, there. I just wanted to note that. And then I'm going to go over to the shore. And sort of the opposite problem here. Not enough growth or population in these far eastern counties, Worcester, Somerset. So 38C had to move further west. It used to stop, or does stop, right around here somewhere, but it needed to move further west, right up into, not quite into, but just abutting, I believe, Salisbury. And the same thing for 38A, it had to come north to get more population as well. So that was sort of the movement of those two sub-districts. A lot of this is the same for obvious reasons. There's nowhere to go. There are not many options. I'm going to go up to the northern shore here, District 36. Same issue. Everything is sort of pushing north, and District 36 is pushing further north, further into Cecil County because of the population issue.
Michelle,
And I think,
if I could, you keep saying the population issue. What is the deviation on those Eastern Shore districts? Are they well under the population, so they had to go further? 36, 37?
well, when I talk about that, I just mean in a macro sense. So in areas of the state where there's lower population, then the districts have to sort of get bigger. And then in places where there's a lot of growth, the districts contract.
So what's the average, or what is the deviation for those three districts? I'm assuming they're very much lower now because the population, you're saying, decreased.
Let's see, District 36, we'll start with that. 36, right, under this map, I should say, is at 2.74%.
That's over.
And District 37, the Senate district, is 3.07.
So that's significantly over too. So 38 must be well underpopulated.
No, 38 is at 2.18.
So they're all overpopulated. I thought you said because of the population, you had to increase it. It just seems like you're making the deviation higher, which is driving it north, not because of the population. It's just the drawers of the map chose to make a higher deviation for the Eastern Shore.
Senator, if you make it a lower deviation, you're pulling everything down from the top down. And that has a very big ripple effect all the way down in terms of pulling everything to the northeast that's in Baltimore County, Hartford County, and so forth. So you have to kind of find that balance. And sometimes they're going to be a little high in certain places of the state, and sometimes they're going to be low in other places of the state. And that's all finding that balance to try to maintain some geographical integrity and not do too much damage in terms of trying to keep things relatively the same for continuity purposes, community of interest, and so forth.
Well, if you're saying keep it the same, the current map in 2010, let me just finish, please. The current map in 2010 has the border much lower. So if the goal was to keep people in their same districts, everything I'm hearing tonight is saying that they shouldn't have gone north and increased the deviation because it's currently that way. So I don't know what problems that creates.
Well, there's a lot of ways to draw maps. I don't know that it's creating any problems, quite frankly. I think, it's again, you have an at-large district on 36, for example. And if you were to pull Cecil County more over, then you'd be pulling everything else over in terms of how the population works. So this, again, it's a balancing act. The plan we've lived under, while some people probably didn't like it, it was constitutional and it's fine. And so we're building from that, as we've always done in the past, to try to make things work from a population point of view and to try to keep as much together as we possibly could for continuity.
Well, last thing I'll say is the current border in 2010 could have been kept the same as it was in this map, and the population deviation would have been fine, right around the average. So there was some reason to pack the Eastern Shore and go further north and take things away from existing districts and the people that are serving them. But we'll talk more later.
Okay, and that's the end of my presentation, unless there are any other questions.
I just had a question about population variations in 35. You described for us 36, 37, and 38 that they were all somewhere between 2% and 3-point-something% over the average number. What's in light of what Chairman Arrow just talked about, if we change that, then we'd have to change 35 and it would have a ripple effect. I think, that's the word I would use at least. What's the population variance in Senate District 35 or in, for example, in 35A and 35B sub-districts? Because they would be the ones most impacted by what Senator Simonaire was discussing. And I'm just trying to figure out how that fits together.
35A is 2.67% over, 35B is 3.91, and the entire Senate district is 3.70.
So if we theoretically, if we chose to reduce 35 closer to the mean, you could eliminate even a little bit of Harford County. If you chose to keep 36, 37, and 38 closer to the mean, I think that's what Commissioner Arrow was referencing, if I'm getting it right. It would simply pull the map down further, but yet everything would be in the population variance. Is that correct?
I'm not sure who you were asking. I'm sorry.
I don't know. I mean, either one of you is fine. You know the maps and the data better than what I do. I'm just wondering if it's not possible to create a situation where each of these districts are not much closer to the 0 or 1% mean without really changing. I mean, it's a long way from Northern Caroline County to the Pennsylvania line. It's Cecil County. And if it's 2 or 3 or 4% over, is there a way to modulate that is what I'm looking for, I guess.
Well, I can say that there are plenty ways to do this, almost an infinite number. At least it seems like it's infinite. But I will say this, just in general, it's sometimes something sounds like it's very simple and it's going to be an isolated change, but it creates sort of a domino effect. So then there are other considerations that you would have to consider as you do it. And sometimes you don't even know until you start.
Is my last question is 34A undersized? I mean, is 34A different to the population mean?
34A, let's see here. I'm missing something. Oh, here we go. 34A is 1.78 under.
So that's where I guess in theory you could go, because they're almost 2 points under. If 35A is over, 35A had to come into 35B, and 35 in total went down into 36. The place where you would make it up, it would seem, that's the closest to that area is in 34A. That if, for example, 34A were a little bit higher into that orange area of 35A, that would account for the population variance, so that you could do it. It just seems anomalous that you've got 1, 2, 3, 4 districts in a row from 38 to 35 that are all over, that then adjoin a 34A 2-member district that's roughly 2%, 1.8, whatever you said, under. We'll just note that, I guess, for the record.
Yeah, well, let me just comment too that, this plan, again, everything is well within what's considered to be substantially equal population. You have other considerations too. I'm looking at this map. I'm not so sure where municipal boundaries are up there. I know there's a couple of towns, and at this point, I think you've got a good solid map. You can play with this ad infinitum, but you have.
I like that word.
Ad
I
infinitum.
use that a lot.
Yeah. Well, I mean, as Michelle said, there's a lot of ways to draw maps, but I think overall, the overall variance of the plan is good, and every district is well within tolerance of what we call that plus or minus 5%. So it's a matter of, again, that's all I've got to say about that. So there you go.
Michelle, if I could ask a question since you're done here, if you could zoom in a little on the 34A and 35A area. So from what I understand, 34 is underpopulated, 35 is overpopulated. And if I'm looking at that little orange piece coming in at the north part of 34A, right side of Route 95, the orange part, that used to be in the current map, in the 2000 map, that was part of 34. And so I guess I'm trying to find out what the logic was of taking that out when 34 was underpopulated and 35 is overpopulated. And that's really splitting up Habity Grace and Aberdeen area. Why was that given to an overpopulated area instead of staying with 34 who is underpopulated? What was the thinking there? I mean, I'm just trying to understand it.
I don't have an answer for you. I don't know.
Carl, do you have an answer? Because that's actually splitting communities, and everything says it shouldn't do that. It's the current way it is now. What was the reason?
I also don't have an answer for it either, other than basically trying to make some population work. But as you point out, there's some slack, there's some movement. So I guess we'll just have to.
Who would be the person that would know that answer?
It's a good question. I don't know.
Well, who drew the maps?
It wasn't me.
The maps.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
I'm confused. This sounds like floor debate.
It does.
I was under the impression that this was a public hearing for the public to weigh in on the maps.
Yes.
That's not a debate. It's an ask about the reasoning why a certain community is separated, and just asking for justification what the reasoning thought process was. I'm not debating. I'm just asking for an answer.
Sure,
Well,
Senator, I appreciate that, but I came to hear from the public.
I think we need to move on. And, this is still a draft. We are not going to finalize it today. So there is opportunity to hear from the public and to go back and take a look at things and figure out what we want to do. It's not a final right now. I mean, we call it a final, but it's a final draft. So.
Okay, I'm going to stop sharing. There we go.
Okay, then let's move forward. And if we have people who are ready to testify, I assume there are people in a waiting room. And the first individual I have, I guess we'll call 3 at a time. Is that correct? We're going to do it that way. I have.
I'm going to stop sharing.
Okay, well, the first person that's popped in, I see on the screen here is, let's see, who do we have? All right, well, my list to start with is Reggie Benbow, Reginald Benbow.
Hello, good afternoon. Thank you, Chair Arrow and the esteemed members of the commission. I live in District 43, proposed to be in District 43A in the future. And my concern relates to community of interest, especially considering the legacy of redlining and racism in Baltimore. Already the 43rd District is clearly divided. On the east side of York Road, you have historically marginalized and working class Black neighborhoods. And on the west side, you have majority white and wealthier neighborhoods. And with the addition of 43B, creating Senate District 43, we just have the potential for a more affluent community in Towson, mixed in with some affluent communities already from the 43rd District that could overwhelm the interest of some of the neighborhoods that have historically been marginalized, such as Radnor Winston, Woodburn McCabe, etc. And so that is my comment on the map. I know it takes a lot of legwork to put into this. And of course, Baltimore lost 35,000 residents according to the census. It would seem that most of the population loss actually came from East and West Baltimore, what is now the 40th and 45th legislative districts. And then if you look at communities such as Woodlawn and West Baltimore, there seemed to be a natural sort of alignment between the demographics, but matching the demographics of Towson and portions of Northeast Baltimore would seem to be divergent interests. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Appreciate hearing from you. The next person we have is Edward Johnson.
Good afternoon, members of the Advisory Committee. My name is Edward Johnson, and I'm a leader of the Maryland Legislative Coalition. The new legislative maps that the committee has come up with are generally very good. There is a problem in the area of Timonium-Cockeysville. Having lived in the area for over 25 years, I'm very familiar with it. Cockeysville is the only area in central Baltimore County that has near majority-minority precincts. Again, part of the community has been split from the another part. The area east of York Road between Warren Road and Galloway Avenue over towards Greentop have been stuck in District 11 instead of being united with the rest of the Cockeysville in District 42B. All three schools used by residents of this area are now located in 42B. Now there's a wider problem. The border for 42B should have been along Interstate 83, not York Road. The area of Timonium-Cockeysville has been part of 42B for a very long time. The legislators in 42B have been led the fight to fix the problems at Timonium Fairgrounds. Now it is stuck in 11, and that doesn't make any sense. The area is dependent on public transportation, since there are a number of residents that live below the poverty line. In 2018, the Board of Elections set up no voting centers in the area that were near public transportation along the entire York Road corridor. The legislators again of 42B led the fight to correct this. There are many structural problems at Delaney High School, which is the school many of current 42B go to, and those now according to 11. Again, the legislators of 42B have been leading the fight to fix these problems. They've had some support from the District 11 legislators, but all the fights in that area have been led by the legislators, and that's why I believe that 42B should take along the whole area east of Interstate 83. In the southwest area of 42B, there's a community that has been split with 11. That community could fully be moved into District 11 so that the Timonium-Cockeysville area could be united with 42B. But I mean, I've talked to people over in that area, and they say they've been split, and they feel they could be moved over into 11 to correct the problem. Thank you.
And thank you very much. The next person I have is John Patterson. Mr. Patterson, are you there? Here he is. You're up, sir. We're having trouble hearing you.
Hi, it'll take me a minute to get organized here. All right. So first I want to say I have Parkinson's disease. It makes my verbal responses a bit slow, but I have an important idea, the whole county option that I've been working on for several years that deserves your awareness. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. I was a witness for the congressional redistricting map. I surprised a lot of folks by giving a favorable rating to the legislative committee proposal. Okay. So I gave an unfavorable, under normal circumstances, the proposal was not what we would stand for or support, but considering the emergency we find ourselves in with Republican gerrymandering in other states and doing voter access limitation, we had to fight fire with at least some fire. I'm giving an unfavorable rating to the legislative version of the map. Gerrymandering is when politicians select their voters versus voters selecting their politicians. Don't have an extraordinary, crazy Republican threat in Maryland, so gerrymandering is not needed. I want to create an awareness of the whole county option. The whole county option uses whole counties as the building blocks for election districts. The process works at all three levels of government: congressional, legislative, and local. Let me tell you some quick, surprising facts that make the whole county option possible. The U.S. Constitution does not say that districts have to have the same number of population. Census is specified to run every 10 years. Redistricting process is not specified by time period. Each House representative have more or less than one vote. The Constitution specifically calls for one vote per senator. The Constitution is moot on the subject of House representatives. The number of representatives per state is not expected to be a whole number. From these realities comes the following scenario. Redistricting will be done in 2 years in the county option. Next redistricting period will be as soon as 2022 midterm election is over. Next, there'll be a Zoom meeting of all county state leaders. Heads of each county will declare their alignment and their profiles. Alignment is declaration of their single district or combined with contiguous neighbors. Profile is how many representatives will be seated for the county with voting power result. The whole county option makes redistricting relatively automatic allocation of populations to districts. Makes the election part of the process. The part of the process represents. There will be a constitutional solution to both gerrymandering and partisanship. So, Arnold Schwarzenegger said, I'll be back with more on this as we move along. Thank you.
Thank you very much. The next person I have is Christian. I couldn't even pronounce his name when he was in the House. Christian Mealy. Okay, you're up, and then followed by Beth Huffnagel and Renaud Brown. Need your mic.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. It's easiest way to remember it rhymes with really, so you had it right. It's Mealy. Good afternoon, everyone, Mr. Chairman, Mr. President, Madam Speaker, members of the commission. Thanks for the opportunity to provide public comment this afternoon on the proposed redistricting plan. For the record, Christian Mealy, former member of the House of Delegates and full disclosure, a candidate for the Maryland Senate in District 34. I'm only appearing as myself, not on behalf of the Hogan administration, since I served as Deputy Secretary of Disabilities. Just a member of the public today. I raised just one concern related to the redistricting plan for Harford County's 3 state Senate districts. It was just brought up maybe about 20 minutes ago or so by Senate Minority Leader Simon Ayer. But I'm not here merely to point out an issue that needs correcting. I'll offer a solution that will easily resolve it. Obviously, it's a stated goal of the commission, in keeping with the spirit of Reynolds v. Sims, the Supreme Court decision of 1964, that districts be equally populated relative to one another to ensure that the principle of one person, one vote is actuated. So according to the proposed map, if you look at the breakdown of Harford County's 3 state Senate districts, they're broken down as follows. 35 has 136,000 plus people. The 7th district has 131,000 people. And the 34th district has 130,657 people. So as you can see, the population discrepancy between districts 35 and 34 is 5,599 people. And what contributes to that discrepancy is the fact that 35 under the proposed map annexes 4 Havre de Grace and Aberdeen precincts and moves the 1,671 people therein, precincts that have historically been in District 34, north into District 35. And for the record, those 4 precincts are 2-21, 2-05, 2-04, and 6-07, all of which dip south below 95. It's important to note that even without those 4 precincts, District 35 would still have 3,928 more people than 34. So it's clear that 35 doesn't need the population. But perhaps more importantly, this proposed change splits Havre de Grace and Aberdeen in 2 by unnecessarily dividing communities of interest into 2 state legislative districts. So my solution is very simple. Simply return these 4 precincts to District 34, which will achieve 2 key balancing factors that your commission's been focused on. It brings Harford County's 3 state Senate districts into greater alignment population-wise. More importantly, it keeps 2 communities of interest with unique histories and geographies, being Havre de Grace and Aberdeen together rather than splitting them unnecessarily into 2 separate Senate districts. And since this one change that I proposed would only impact these 2 districts, it will not cause a ripple effect that will give you all a headache. And it's, you're not gonna have to subsequently wrestle with changes, resulting from this simple change. So again, the 4 precincts in question are 2-21, 2-05, 2-04, and 6-07, rather small precincts. But again, we'll have more and greater alignment between all 3 districts. And again, because of the geography, it just makes a lot more sense to keep these precincts in District 34 where they were historically. But that's my time. So thanks for your consideration. It's wonderful to see you all today.
Thank you very much. Thank you. All right, Beth Helfnagel, you're up.
Good afternoon, Chair Arrow and Commissioners. My name is Beth Huffnagel. I'm representing the League of Women Voters of Maryland. The League supports a state redistricting process and standards with maximum opportunity for public scrutiny. We appreciate that in many cases, the testimony you solicited during your extensive regional hearings has been reflected in this draft legislative map. In our testimony of November 15th, we had asked for a well-publicized timetable for their, meaning the legislative map's release. To the contrary, the draft legislative map was released with no prior public notice the evening of December 20th, about the same time this hearing was set for December 22nd. A meeting had been on the calendar, but not a hearing. This meant that witness sign-up opened less than 24 hours after the draft map was released, compared to the minimum 2 weeks we have been recommending. This is woefully inadequate amount of time for meaningful feedback, particularly since shapefiles were not released. We ask that when hearings on the legislative maps are held during the regular session, adequate time to review the maps and their shapefiles, as well as to draft meaningful testimony, is provided. We continue to hope that the process of deciding on the legislative maps will be transparent and those LRAC meetings will be live streamed. Dividing these lines selected to favor politicians invariably ends up splitting communities of interest, fueling the cynicism toward those in charge, and feeding the apathy that deters voters from participating in the electoral process. Maryland needs redistricting reforms codified in law or its constitution, establishing standards for who can serve on the commission and criteria that must be followed when drawing district maps. Thank you very much for all your time and effort.
Thank you. All right, next, Ms. Brown, Bernard Brown. Is he there? All right, well, let's go. We have Kevin Burke sitting there, so we'll go there.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for your time. So I'm an attorney. I'm also a former federal prosecutor, as well as a Iraqi war veteran. I don't say that to burnish my own credentials in any regard, but to let you know that I take the testimony I'm about to give. I don't take it lightly by any means. The proposed changes as they pertain to districts 33 and 31 appear to be an example of political corruption from both sides of the aisle. I know there are some really great public servants working on this effort, So it's my hope that reason and integrity will prevail and that these errors will be corrected in due course. However, as they stand, the proposed maps are clearly unethical to any reasonable person and very well may be illegal. As you know, Article 3 of the Constitution says that due regard should be given to natural boundaries and the boundaries of political subdivisions. However, under the proposed map, Severna Park, Maryland, which used to be housed in one legislative district, is carved into 4 delegate districts and split in the middle of 2 legislative districts currently. Again, there's a clear constitutional issue there. Moreover, the clear purpose of the carving out makes it more troubling. For instance, to the right of Ritchie Highway, it was clear that that there's a bubble dip into the peninsula to remove Delegate Munoz from District 33, which again, the evidence suggests that that was done irrespective of natural boundaries or political subdivisions. Believe that creates a clear constitutional issue that this board should investigate. In the western part of District 33, we see a similar troubling happenstance where a line is drawn between two different people who are running to forgo Delegate Saab from having to run against Councilman Pruski. In the eastern part of the district, it was drawn so Delegate Munoz doesn't have to run against Delegate Bagnell, right? This type of thing should not be entered into the conversation when we're drawing the lines, right? In conclusion, I hope and expect that this commission will remedy this clear abuse of power and potential violation of Maryland Constitution. Severna Park and the broader area should not be carved up like a Christmas turkey for the benefit of political parties and self-serving politicians. That concludes my testimony.
Thank you very much. All right. Next, I have Linda Darcy Walker, if she's there. I did not see her name. And we also haven't heard from Renaud Brown, Mr. Brown.
Mr. Chair, we don't have anyone else in the waiting room.
Okay, well, I guess they've decided not to participate then. Called them a couple of times. So I think that concludes our hearing.
Mr. Chairman,
sir.
I could just ask what's going forward process if some constituents have changes, what's the process?
Well, I think at this point they can still submit things to us. It's a matter of us next getting together, I guess, to finalize. I think things can still be submitted. I don't see any reason why not. We've gotten some testimony today. We've had some discussion. So I think, the next time we get together, we take up these issues and see what happens.
Mr. Chair, just a reminder, it'd be helpful maybe to repeat the email address so that ongoing online testimony can be submitted.
Sure.
It's always tough during the holidays to schedule, so I
dig that out again. Okay, so for anybody who's still listening, testimony, all lowercase, _LRAC in caps at mlis.state.md.us. And that will get us to us electronically. Okay.
Mr. Chair, Linda Dorsey Walker just entered the waiting room.
All right. Okay. Well, then let's let her in and let's hear from her.
Hello.
Hello. Go ahead. You're on.
Hi. I'm Linda Dorsey Walker. And can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Go ahead.
Okay. Good evening. My name's Linda Dorsey Walker. I don't know what all that sound is. I am the sixth-term member of Democratic State Central Committee, and I am also a past president of Lionswood Homeowners Association. In the past, Lionswood, by the way, is the oldest and largest single homeowners association in Northwest Baltimore County in the Owings Mills area. I'm contacting you because I would like to have Owings Mills designated a single member district for this particular reason. Owings Mills has 39,000 African Americans living in and around the area. That is almost enough for a single member district by itself. Because of that, there is no particular reason why we should continue going on not having a minority elected. In past elections, the current incumbents have been asked by talk show hosts like Larry Young, when and where are you going to ever have minority representation in Owings Mills, which is a largely African American area? At a recent hearing that we had at Owings Mill Library, we also had a non-African American minority member state that they feel lost over in the Padonia International Elementary School area because the largely Latino and South Asian population over there feels that they aren't being represented by the current composition of 11th district delegation. So one of the things that I'm trying to do is ask that the same kind of consideration that was given to 44 when it was moved into the county, and all of 42, and also 43B, when it was made a single member district instead of a multi-member district, be also done in District 11. We need to have our own voice, and we're tired of being told by others that we can represent you just as well as any of you can represent yourselves. So I'm hoping that before this goes any further, that an opportunity be finally taken to stop the packing that's going on in District 11, where you have 39,000 African Americans electing non-African American representatives who tell them, be satisfied with us because we can speak for you as well as you can speak for yourselves. I like what you did with District 44. I like what you've done with District 42 as well. Please give us the same kind of consideration because we've been waiting even longer. Lionswood is now 30 years old. It's the oldest one of those communities. That means we've been waiting 30 years for the change.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, I guess that's it then. I don't think Mr. Brown's around, Bernard Brown. Has he popped into the waiting room?
No, he hasn't.
Okay, well then I think that will conclude our hearing, and we'll get together. Hopefully, I guess it's going to be after the holiday anyway. There's still plenty of time. So hopefully people will submit stuff if they haven't. Again, testimony_LRAC@mlis.state.md.us. And I guess that's all I've got to say. So good night, everybody, and have a